Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and today is my July eyeshadow palette ranking of the month video. This is where I rank all of the eyeshadow palettes I used in the month of July. Some might be new releases or new to my collection versus old things, and we kind of see what stacks up where against each other for the month. If you haven't already, I would love it if you consider subscribing to my channel. I upload videos twice a week. It is totally free to subscribe, and I would love to have you back again on the channel to talk all things makeup in the comments. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video if you do like it. It really helps me out in the algorithm. So we've got 12 palettes this month that I used, and as you're seeing this, it's a few days before the end of July, but I'm on my honeymoon right now, so I only have 2 of these palettes with me, so I can't use any more than this even if I wanted to for the rest of the month. This is it. So we're gonna go ahead and start in number 12. This is not a bad eyeshadow palette. This is the ABH Cosmetics Smitten in Switzerland. I had this on my trip to Japan. None of these are bad, but I will say this is a palette, if it disappeared tomorrow from my collection, I would not seek it out again. It's just mid. It's fine. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's certainly not bad. It's just okay. And BH is an affordable brand. I like the color story and the versatility this gave me on my trip, but formula-wise, it's not super impressive. But again, not bad. So that's why it's in the bottom. And number 11 from Gourmand Girls is the Silent Night palette. Actually a very good palette. I only ranked this one lower because I really just use it as a companion palette to grab like a white or a blue or a black to go with something else. I haven't used this just as a standalone. I haven't been really feeling these kinds of colors for the season. To me, this is more of like maybe a winter color story. So love the formula of Gourmand Girls. Absolutely not ranked here because it is a bad palette. I would actually recommend this palette. It's just sometimes a preference thing from month to month, and this month I just, like I said, grabbed it as a companion palette but didn't like love it or use it as a standalone palette for now. And number 10 from Sydney Grace, the Tiny Marvels palette. I had not used this one in a while. This is their collab with Mel Thompson, and yeah, it's good quality. I do really particularly like the mattes, but these shimmers and mattes just aren't as pigmented as I remembered them being, which if you want something that's more subdued or lighter, not so potent pigmented, you might like that. They're certainly easy to blend, and the shimmers are a nice formula, but I don't know, it just wasn't as impactful as I remember it being. So again, not bad. And I did like the color story more than some of the others and used that color story more as a standalone palette. It wasn't like a companion palette the way Silent Night was, but just not my favorite thing I used this month. And number 9 from Oden's Eye, the Little Ghost palette. I gave this one another try. I wasn't loving it the first time I came back to it, but I did an orange-ish kind of look with the bottom row, and the sparkle was incredible. Like, they're not really shifty shades, but it was very reflective and sparkly, and so I did like that about this one. Still not my favorite, I think, again, just because of the color story, but I did enjoy the formula more than I did the previous time I used it. I think everything else, just in addition to having like more sparkles, is also shifty, and so I rated them higher. And number 8 from Fantasy Cosmetica, one of 3 palettes I used to do my palette bingo when they were doing their sale. I'll leave that video linked if you're interested in seeing these more in action. And I'll leave videos for any of these that I have filmed like standalone things on if you want to see them more in action, since I'm just talking about them. This one's the Druid palette. This one, again, has shifty shades that I really love, the shimmer formula of Fantasy Cosmetica. This brand has some of the best shimmers of all time, in my opinion. I did a video on that too. I'll leave linked if you are interested, but color story wise, this one just ranked lower compared to some of the others. And number 7 is the other palette I took to Japan, the Nomad Cosmetics Tokyo Harajuku palette. We actually got to go to Harajuku, the shopping district, and I did not have this palette with me at the time because it was lost in my luggage. We love that for me. I did get a lot of use from this palette on that trip. I used this one more than the BH one that I took on that trip. I think it's just not any higher because although I love this one, especially the duochromes, number 1, I do feel like you have to use a glitter glue with these shimmers for them to really show up at all and be impactful. And secondly, you just get variations of pastel palettes, and that's what this is meant to be. that's fine. But I could have used, even though there's a gray in that, maybe one more like deepening up shade. So I felt the need to like pull into that Switzerland for like a shadow liner. Number 6, the second Fantasy Cosmetica palette I used in that look. This one is the Barred palette. Again, I just like the color story of this one a little bit better than the Druid palette. Formula I think is pretty consistent, although I do feel like the mattes have gotten better in the newer palettes. Like I think the mattes in this one are better than the previous one. This one's definitely fall vibes, just still not my favorite color story of the 3, and it really came down to not only color story, but some of the shimmers in the top are those like very clear transparent base with reflect in it, the like iridescent shades that I've really been loving lately. And now we're in the top 5. And number 5, from It's Belle, the Cool Summer palette. I don't think you can get this one anymore, but I've really been loving the brights and just living my summer fantasy. The shimmers are fantastic in this one as well. I still haven't tried every shade in here. Like I haven't used Blueberry Pop yet, so I may use this into August a bit more too, just to like really fully use everything. I haven't used, I don't think, Margarita either, so there's a few shades, but I've used almost everything, and not only is it good quality, but the shades are consistent. It's not like there's a couple duds like I feel some palettes have, but even though this is brights and it works for summer, it wasn't my ultimate formula and color story, so I couldn't rank it higher because there were just a couple others that I really loved more than that. And number 4 is the Final Fantasy Cosmetica palette. This one is the Rogue palette, and like I said, there are just a couple shimmers like Sleight of Hand that, oh, they're just lovely. I love those shades that have an iridescence to them, and they're like a transparent base and just so much shimmer and sparkle. That's Sleight of Hand for sure. And even though this has a lot of blue, it also has a lot of purple and green in it, and I just really like this one. I know it's not super summer vibes, but this color story just has my heart, and I think that the formula is the best in the shimmers and the mattes both together of this one out of all 3 of them. But it still wasn't my most favorite, I think, just because it is a 9 pan and it does have purple, blue, and green. It just doesn't have as much versatility as some of the other palettes that are a little bit bigger that I ranked higher. And number 3 from Ensley Rain is the Midwinter Dream. This palette is no longer available. It was the collaboration they did with Brittany Huffman. This is my intro to the brand. Again, iridescent like we were talking about, and this matte selection is just beautiful. These are my like dream matte colors, honestly. Love them so much. Really been loving doing a dark green outer corner and then picking a shimmer to go with it. Really, really fun. And it's not like too dramatic. Like these mattes I like because you can leave them like a little more subdued, or you can build them up if you want to be more dramatic. And this formula, just amazing. Another shimmer brand that's just so good. So that one used to be, when I first got it, like number 1 for several months in a row, that Ensley Rain palette. So the fact that there's 2 higher than that, it's got to tell you something this month. So the 2 that are highest this month are the 2 that I'm taking on my honeymoon, and maybe it's partially sentimentality, is that a word? But sentimental of like the fact that I'm taking them on my honeymoon. But the one I'm wearing today is the Hey Reindeer palette the day I'm filming this, and man, just this candy cane multi-chrome shade in itself, I'm just really enjoying the color story. This is like, it looks a little hodgepodge, but there's so many ways you can go with blue. You can go more neutral with the gold. You can have a pop of orange. You can do berry. There's a yellow. There's just a lot you can do with this. Truly, I think the only reason this one was not number 1 and the other one was is because this is the deepest shade. And I don't feel like it's deep enough to do like a shadow liner for this palette. That's truly like the only flaw for me with that one, and that is why number 1 is the Oden's I Merry Christmas palette. I know we went Christmas for our honeymoon, but there are just so many color options between the 2 of these. This is the more like warmer between the 2. It does have this black. It also has the neutral with the gold, but you've got red, you can go green, and you can go more primary green, or you can go more like grungy green. So, and orange, pink. There's just so much you can do with these that I felt like between the 2 of these, they were good honeymoon picks. And I just like the shimmer quality because it does a good job on its own. I don't need a glitter glue. They don't crease. They have good longevity. And yeah, those color stories have just spoken to me more than some of the other ones this month. So those are all of the palettes I used in the month of July. What's your number one pick for this month? I would love to know in the comments below. Thanks so much if you made it all the way to the end, and I hope to see you again on the next one. Bye!